Hello and welcome to today's show where my guest is Professor Jeff Jarvis, who is a media and journalism professor out at Stony Brook University now. He is emeritus. That means partially kind of retired, but he is not slowing down. Still writing articles and books and talking on podcasts like mine and many others. Very excited to have Jeff. That conversation begins at 29 minutes today. But before that, I've got a great rundown of today's news and sound bites from the last 24 hours. Reminder, I am traveling later today to Europe with my 18-year-old Julia. We're going to look at the University of Amsterdam, where she'll likely be attending in the fall. Be there till Sunday. I will be posting episodes the rest of the week, but probably posting them ahead of time. I've got great conversations with Professor Eric Siegel about tomorrow's big argument at the Supreme Court, birthright citizenship. That's the Wednesday show. I'll also have Christian Finnegan, Allison Jaslow, and Celeste Headley all planning to join me the rest of the week. So great episodes of Stand Up will still drop every day. I won't have the headlines and clips because I'll be off apparently visiting the world's most liberal city, according to Jeff Jarvis. Amsterdam. Yes, 7-hour flight. Really not looking forward to that part, but any advice you have to help me get through it, I'll take it. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing many of you in Las Vegas at PodJam 3. Get your tickets. Hope to see you April 9th through 12th. It's going to be a rager. And now let's get to those headlines. Remember, I cannot do this segment without your support. Can't do the show without your support. Patreon.com/Pete Dominick is the place to go. It's a one-man show. I produce the whole thing. Guest booker Pete Dominick. Host Pete Dominick, editor Pete Dominick, research Pete Dominick, and all of you should get a credit too because so many of you help me produce it and always have with great ideas for guests and sound bites and news items and anything else, including technical advice, always trying to make it better, including trying to get all these different clips that I get from so many different sources to sound around the same volume because it's annoying when they go up and down. So patreon.com/Pete Dominick or go to Substack and get a paid subscription. Substack at StandUpWithPete. Let's get to the war report. It's been a month, folks. 1 month since the joint Israeli-U.S. invasion bombing campaigns began. And while it never should have happened, it looks that possibly like Iran has the upper hand to some extent. And that was very predictable, I think, as well. So let's get to the headlines. Well, guess what? There's a cost. The average U.S. gas price hit $4 a gallon yesterday, the highest since 2022. Average prices at the pump are now higher than at any point during Kim Jong-un's second term here, or long second nightmare. Oil prices rose slightly while Asian markets were trading lower. Also, listen to this. We're sitting here negotiating, and then a fully loaded Kuwaiti tanker in Dubai waters was hit by an Iranian drone attack. Explosions have been heard across Tehran as Israel's military said it conducted multiple waves of strikes on targets in the Iranian capital. Cars were in flames in central Israel due to missile fragments falling. And as speculation mounts over a possible U.S. ground operation in Iran, the USS Tripoli, believed to be carrying around 1,800 Marines, is in the Indian Ocean now, said U.S. Central Command. News breaking this morning that 4 Israeli soldiers were killed in Lebanon and huge explosions were seen and heard in Iran's Isfahan. In an exclusive interview with Al Jazeera, United States Secretary and hollow barrel, giant-eared man Marco Rubio said communication between Tehran and Washington is ongoing, mostly through intermediaries, adding U.S. war objectives would be achieved in weeks, not months. Ooh, I love it when they give us these timelines that never, ever come true. Meanwhile, U.S. President Hungry Hypocrite has threatened to destroy Iran's main oil export hub and energy infrastructure if no deal is reached soon. Yeah, he keeps saying that. In Iran, state media reported that a parliamentary commission approved tolls on vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz, a key oil and gas route effectively closed by the war. Al Jazeera reporter said Iranian leaders are focused on the war effort as they deeply distrust the U.S., believing Washington is not genuinely ready for negotiations on ending the war. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps confirmed the death of its naval commander, who was killed in an Israeli strike recently. And that's just some of what is happening on day, is it 32 or 33 of the Iran war, U.S.-Israel war on Iran. Actually, I'll just read to you last night's New York Times evening report headlined, Trump zigzags on his plan for Iran. President Trump threatened today to significantly escalate the U.S. assault on Iran by destroying the country's energy facilities if Tehran's negotiators did not quickly agree to a deal. At the same time, the president also said that talks between the two sides were making great progress. Similar mixed messages have become commonplace as the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran enters its fifth week. In just the last couple of days, Trump has argued that his goal of, quote, regime change in Iran has already been achieved, while also sending thousands more U.S. troops to the region and raising the prospect of seizing Iran's largest oil facility. Commodity traders have been left guessing about how much longer the war will last and what kind of lasting effect it will have on energy supplies. Asia, which buys about 90% of the liquefied natural gas the Middle East produces, could see a shortfall until 2028. Trump claimed that Iran had agreed to allow 20 oil tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, but while 2 Chinese-owned container ships had passed the strait this afternoon, there were no reports that oil tankers were going through. And a new type of U.S. missile has been used, apparently, to hit an Iranian sports hall and school. According to analysis, the Pentagon uses missiles untested in combat and deadly attack that struck civilian strikes near a military compound February 28th, according to evidence examined by the New York Times and weapons experts. So you can go read all of that there. Now on to other headlines. Just in time for the 2 flights that I have in April. I'm lucky. TSA workers are paid and lines are getting shorter for now. The hours-long wait at airports appeared to ease yesterday after TSA employees said they had begun receiving paychecks that covered work they'd done during the partial government shutdown. I saw some TSA agents reporting all their paid money was not actually in the paycheck, like it was half. So that I saw that on social media. The president ordered that the airport workers be paid even though Congress has yet to fund the TSA's parent agency. So they got part of the money. Sounds like something Trump would do. Well, if he did it, they get none of it. More than 500 TSA employees have quit during the shutdown. Thousands called out sick last week. And most lawmakers are on a 2-week break, so Congress didn't move any closer to approving funds for DHS. Obviously, a story we'll continue to watch closely. A months-long U.S. oil blockade has plunged Cuba into crisis, but the Trump regime said it will allow a Russian tanker to deliver fuel. Wait, 730,000 barrels of oil. It'll last a few weeks in Cuba. And Con Juan has suggested that allowing the shipment is a humanitarian gesture. But analysts saw the move as a sign that the U.S. pressure campaign against Cuba had most likely been sidelined by what? What is it? Oh, the other war that he started in Iran. All right, moving on. In other news, NASA preparing to send its first crewed lunar mission in decades. In 2 days, NASA scheduled to send 4 astronauts on the first trip to the moon and back since 1972. The crew will not land on the lunar surface. That's apparently a few years down the line, but they are set to swoop around the moon and observe parts of it never before seen by humans. So that's exciting. That looks fun. I think they should be focused more on climate issues, but that's been cut. One of the astronauts said things are certainly starting to feel real. Christina Koch is her name. She's also the first woman on a lunar mission, and it also includes the first black person, the first Canadian ever to launch to the moon. I guess Pete Hegseth wasn't in charge of who's getting to go on that mission. The Associated Press is reporting that the New York Times is accusing the Pentagon of flouting the judge's order blocking its press access policy. Times claims Pentagon officials have implemented a revised press policy that circumvents the judge's March 20th ruling. So not shocking that they're not following a judge's ruling. The FBI on Friday confirmed that hackers targeted the personal emails of Director Kash Patel hours after an Iranian government-linked hacking group posted documents and images online claiming to have stolen them from Patel. In a statement, the FBI confirmed the agency was aware of the malicious actors targeting Director Patel's personal email information, and they've taken all necessary steps to mitigate potential risks associated with this activity. Oh, wow. Have you seen some of these videos and pictures of Kash Patel dancing and making an ass of himself? It's so embarrassing. Hopefully it's embarrassing to this guy, if those are all real. The U.S. Justice Department lawyer admitted in court Thursday that if Rhode Island hands over unredacted voter rolls, that data will be shared with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to check citizenship status, which is exactly what we thought they were doing when they're demanding voter rolls. How about this one? No wonder Schittler has stopped talking about mortgage rates. The war in the Middle East continues to weigh in on the U.S. housing market as mortgage rates climbed for the 4th week in a row, squeezing Americans already struggling with high housing costs. The average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage rate climbed to 6.38%, according to the mortgage financing giant Freddie Mac, up from 6.22% the week before, and the highest level since the first week of last September. So that's not good. That's not good. The education department is decided that they're going to relocate from their headquarters to a smaller Washington office as part of the Trump administration's dismantling of the agency. Officials said last week the agency has seen its ranks thinned by mass layoffs since Orange Julius Hitler took office, and its headquarters building has been 70% vacant. In its place, the energy department will assume the lease in the building. So, couple more quick headlines. Thieves broke into a private art museum in Italy and stole works by Renoir, Cezanne, Matisse, worth about $10 million. Wow, I just wanted to do that for the pronunciations. Texas is planning for a border wall in a national park. That's united Republicans and Democrats in opposition to it. Lawyers for a fired Justice Department lawyer said the agency's inspector general had ignored 20 instances of possible wrongdoing by the Trump administration. Shocking. In Israel, Parliament passed a law that makes death by hanging the default sentence in military courts trying Palestinians accused of killing people in militant attacks. Still no word if death by hanging will apply to Israeli extremists who commit killings in militant acts. And more than 10 million grill brushes sold at Home Depot and online were recalled after it was determined that their wire bristles could detach and be ingested. That happened once to me. I didn't ingest it, but I saw the bristle, the wire bristle on the grill, and I never wanted to use it again because you don't want to eat a wire bristle at all, is what I'm told, because it could put punctures. You don't want to use those wire bristled grills in general. If possible, there's other things you can use on your grill. Okay. Well, that's all the headlines that I've got for you. Now let's jump to the sound bites, the clips that I grabbed from yesterday. And I'll start with some comedy. I'll start and end, I think, with Colbert, unless I find something else in the process here. But Kimmel is off this week, and so is Seth Meyers. Always easy to go to the CBS Late Show. Well, at least for, I don't know, until the end of May. Is that when he's off?
We are back after a week off. I took a little vacation, got out on the boat, and I got to say, the fishing was unbelievable in the Strait of Hormuz. Not another boat in sight. And I caught a giant piece of ticking metal. It just, got to figure out how to fillet that sucker. But the number one story is that Saturday was the third No Kings protest, and it was huge. Amazing. They're all over the place. They're all over. They were enormous. Just look at the crowd we got here in New York. Oh, that's the TSA line at JFK. It's surprising that the lines were so long considering all the help they got from ICE. I mean, you know the old saying. You know the old saying, if you got time to lean, you're an ICE agent.
And a picture of an ICE agent just leaning there. A lot of those were published doing nothing. All right, Colbert last night at the Late Show. And now let's check in with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. It's Keir Starmer.
Therefore, it's really important that I reiterate where I stand and where this government stands. Because this is not our war. And we are not going to be dragged into it. Yes, of course, we will defend British lives and British interests in the region, and we'll stand by our allies in the Gulf region. But we're not going to get dragged in. That's my values, that's my principles, and that's what we've applied to our decisions, whatever the pressure and whoever it's coming from.
There you go, Keir Starmer yesterday in the United Kingdom. Here is a national security expert who's joined me on this show many times. He's a correspondent over at CNN. It's Peter Bergen.
Iran agreed to that in 2015 with the Obama nuclear agreement. They agreed not to enrich above 3.5%. Well, you need 90% for a nuclear weapon. It was Trump that pulled out of that deal. It's very ironic that the deal that he's hoping to get is basically the deal he pulled out of in 2018. It's very close to the deal that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were negotiating on February 27th, the day before we went to war against Iran.
So given that, what would they actually need for that to be plausible to abandon nuclear ambitions?
Well, I mean, you have to have inspectors. You have to only enrich to, let's say, 3.5% or 1.5%. You can debate about the percentages, but I mean, there's a big difference between 1.5% and 90%, and that is something that inspectors can inspect, and that's something that they were based on the agreements between.
They were already doing. Yes, really good points by Peter Bergen. Let's now go to one of the very funny comedian activists from the team, The Good Liars, Jason Selvig. Him, he's a tall guy. He's always out there with a microphone, talking to MAGA people especially. Jason Selvig was on MS Now, and a pretty disturbing warning about young white conservatives that he met at CPAC. I'm sure this is not most young white men, I hope, because this is the guys at CPAC, but still, I thought this is an important kind of canary in the coal mine, if you will, or something louder and more obvious.
Some of the people that were there who were younger, in their 20s, they said they came to kind of see the funeral of CPAC and just confirm that it really was over.
Well, what do they think is coming next? It dies, and what takes its place?
I think it's Turning Point. And I have to say, I think some of the things that some of the younger people that I talked to were a little bit scary, because they were saying things that sounded a lot like white nationalism. It sounded racist, to be honest.
What did they say?
Well, they were saying basically that the United States was founded by Europeans, and that is the identity of the United States. And it was a mission from God to conquer a land, and the United States was conquered by Europeans, and now that they're blessed, the United States is blessed by God because of conquering the people that lived here before. And it was more about religion and more about Christianity and that identity, and that included things like teaching the Bible in school and teaching it literally, like Noah's flood actually happened. All these things actually happened. So it was very different from the people we talked to before, who were like, Trump is number one. This was it seems like it's moving in a different direction that is not Trump. And to me, I find that worrying. And I've heard this from talking to people who have children who are in their 20s or in college. They'll say, "Oh, my son is watching Nick Fuentes all the time," and it's like people you wouldn't expect. Like I think a friend of mine would say that they had a friend who just got really into Nick Fuentes. So it's happening, and you're kind of seeing it bubble to the surface now, which it's very different from the Trump rallies we've gone to. Like the way people are talking about this is very different than what we.
Yeah, really interesting and scary reporting from Jason Selvig there on MS Now. Let's go to Senator Jeff Merkley, who is talking to activist attorney Joe Galena, who goes by Call to Activism. You might have seen him on social media. He's saying that former military members are coming forward to condemn Trump.
So here is the tyrant destroying our republic. I do a lot of town halls. I've done 20 so far this year, 20 different counties. I do them one in each county. I've got 16 more to go. But people are turning out, and they're not turning out mostly to complain about the prices, though they're very concerned about that. They're concerned about the groceries going up, the health care, the housing, and everything going up from his tariffs. Mm-hmm. But they're coming out to the town halls in record numbers to say, we're worried about the authoritarian destruction of our nation. And I was really struck by the members of the military who have come out and said, I was serving for my country to defend our freedoms. I'm not going to let them be undone by this authoritarian. We are at a point where we have so much deception. Trump, with his complete fallacy of running as a champion for families and then proceeding to be a president to make billionaires even richer. It's been a families lose, billionaires win mission. So.
All right, Jeff Merkley. I guess that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. That guy always overhypes his clips, and I usually almost always watch them before I share them with you here. But sometimes I listen to them in real time to react to them like I am right now, and that one, maybe not as good as I thought. All right, let's move on to the always great Jessica Tarlov bringing it to the idiots at the table on Fox News, The Five.
We know that when you're more engaged in the political process for a longer amount of time, then you definitively show up to vote. People kicking in fences and things like that, I don't know about it. If they're going to be there in November. But the reality is that the No Kings movement, the last time that there was a protest, had about 6 million people. Now it's 8 million people, 3,300 rallies across all 50 states. And actually 2/3 of them were in suburbs and small towns. 1 of every 50 people who live in America participated in one of these. It's clearly a thing that matters to people. And you see that being recognized not by Jesse or Greg, but by Republicans in Congress. So we have a record high number of electeds on the Republican side retiring early. 36 of them have already announced. Trump's approval is about 40% if you want to be super generous. And historically speaking, when it's less, you already told me, you have Rasmussen, or the guy in the bow tie. And when the president's approval is below 50%, on average, the party loses 34 seats and the minimum loss of 9 seats. We only need 3.
And now let's head over to MS Now. I rarely play Katie Tur, but this is some pretty good journalism report on all the fabricated stories that our hungry hypocrite has told over the last year. It's pretty embarrassing. Here it is.
The company that makes Sharpies told the Washington Post the conversation the president said he had with the head of Sharpie about those pens never happened, which means if sure he made it up and interrupted a cabinet meeting to tell a story he fabricated or hallucinated about his favorite pen. Again, this is not the first time he's been caught making stuff up. Here he is talking about Maryland Governor Wes Moore last summer.
I met him at the Army-Navy game. They said, "Oh, there's Governor Moore. He'd love to see you." He came over to me, hugged me, shook my hand. "You were there." He said, "Sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime."
Okay, so Wes Moore quickly came out and said that conversation was imaginary. It never happened. The month before that, the White House struggled to defend a story the president told about his uncle, John Trump. He had claimed taught Ted Kaczynski, a.k.a. the Unabomber, at MIT, except John Trump died more than a decade before Kaczynski was identified, and Kaczynski never attended MIT. He's told that story multiple times in the past. I could go on, and, I will for a moment longer. There's the yarn he told about a former president recently telling him they wish they had Trump's courage to go into Iran. They have all denied it, all the living presidents. There's the one where he claimed Tucker Carlson reached out to profusely apologize amid a MAGA split over U.S. involvement in Israel's strikes on Iran, which Carlson has flat out denied. There are also the countless stories about his friends who are getting cheaper, quote, fat shots overseas, or the friends who claim they've seen illegal voting, or the boat company owners who complain about electric engines and then praise him for being smart enough to ask about electrocution and whether it's better to be electrocuted by a boat battery or eaten by a shark in the ocean. While a lot of this has always just been part of who Donald Trump is, a man who works the room, seeks attention, seeks applause, he's now about to be 80 years old, and he's launched a war that he does not seem to have a plan for.
Here is the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, talking to students at Harvard University. I think this is yesterday.
A situation like the present situation where there's sort of downside risk to the labor market, which suggests keep rates low, but there's upside risk to inflation, which suggests maybe don't keep rates low. You've got tension between the two objectives. And I think to try to expect unanimity at a time like that, where it's really quite historically challenging, it would almost be misleading to be really confident in which way that should go. In fact, it's been said that confidence is what you feel before you really understand the problem.
Okay, so he doesn't know what to do with interest rates. Nobody necessarily does, given the current situation. I think that's what he said. Oh, here's Tucker Carlson reprimanding Trump, so I'll play it.
I've noticed even since the war began, a lot more talk like that. Mm-hmm. President saying he's glad Mueller's dead, good. Right. And I thought, as someone who, vocally opposed the Mueller investigation like every night that it was ongoing, every single night, so I'm obviously not for the Mueller investigation. Yeah. But I was more opposed to it than anyone else. But when a man dies, even if it's someone you disagree with or even hate, like there's a certain reverence in death that's required if you're going to have reverence for life. Absolutely. There's something awful about that.
Oh, he's so insincere. So insincere, but I'll take it. Sorry I played that for you. All right. Now let's head over to Senator Chris Van Hollen, who was on CNN with Abby Phillip talking about how well the war is going.
We also know he's been lying when he claimed that we were in direct negotiations with the Iranians and that they're going to give us everything we wanted. As to whether or not we're in indirect negotiations through third parties, that's certainly possible, as Barack reported. But the notion that we're near a big breakthrough is delusional. And let's remember that Donald Trump, about 3 weeks ago, said that we won the war. Those are his words. We won the war. So the question is, what are we negotiating about right now, Abby, if we already won the war?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Senator Chris Van Hollen. Okay, let's wrap up the clip show with Jon Stewart. That's right. He was on. It's Monday night. So we will end with Jon Stewart, The Daily Show last night. He had a great bit just criticizing American media for talking about where our sacrifices have been or not been so far, while the rest of the world is suffering probably more.
But as many of you know, it's the 1 month anniversary of the Iran war. And as we all know, 1 month is the escalated threat anniversary.
If the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately open for business, we will conclude by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Karg Island.
You better open that strait or we're going to blow you up. More than we already blew you up. We're going to double blow you up. We're going to blow you up. That's where we are at in our war. Trump is threatening to escalate our bombing campaign unless Iran opens the strait that they closed in response to Trump's bombing campaign. I believe we've entered what General Patton used to refer to as the human centipede portion of the war. I urge you not to look that up. And I understand why the world would like the Strait of Hormuz open.
The conflict is disrupting global supply chains for other surprising and essential products.
Grain, nuts, oil, saffron, dates,
paddles, and pickleballs.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that snuck into the essential product store. But I guess we all make sacrifices in wartime. My dearest Eliza, it's been over a month since I've played, well, not tennis, kind of like tennis. It's more like baby tennis. But it's bigger than ping pong. You really have to try it, Eliza. It's so fun. Acting. That was acting. What else is being blocked?
It's getting harder to get food that comes with pistachios.
You can't make Dubai chocolate bars.
Oh no! What will our influencers stand in line to pretend to eat? Dubai chocolate, my God, that's been an American staple for tens of days. I can't believe how the news has to frame world events to try and make Americans care. The whole region is being flattened. Innocent people are dying. Their food and fuel are in total chaos. And our news is like, if this goes on any longer, say goodbye to your stuffed crust pizza. Are Americans losing anything else?
It turns out there is another key material being affected by the war in Iran, fertilizer.
There could be helium shortages. Yes, the gas that's used in party balloons.
What the f***? Helium is a fundamental gas used in the production of advanced chip technology. You don't have to dumb it down to make us, oh, this war could be even bad for your promposals. Like, come on!
Hilarious, Jon Stewart. I love old-timey letter writing. We used to do that all the time. I'm got to bring it back here on the show. Okay, let's get to my guest today. It's always great when I have the opportunity to talk to my friend Jeff Jarvis. He, of course, is a journalist, associate professor, public speaker, former television critic, huge advocate for the open web and new technology, and a good friend of mine. He was a regular on the Howard Stern Show as a caller where I first heard of him, and I always love talking to him about all things media, life, politics, technology, and so much more. You should get all his books. You should follow him on all of the platforms, including Blue Sky, Threads, and Twitter still. A cancer survivor, recently recovering from a fall that led to some other complications, yet he is never slowing down. Always love talking with Jeff Jarvis, one of our favorites. So let's do it right now. You can watch this on YouTube or Substack if you're a subscriber at Stand Up with Pete. Let's hit it. Hello there. Look who it is. It's the great Jeff Jarvis. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, oh boss, oh host.
I love talking to Jarvis. We love Jarvis. Professor Jeff Jarvis was giving me some great advice about my upcoming trip to Europe, where you have spent a lot of time traveling, speaking, educating, listening. Yes, you're a Western European.
I'm jealous. Amsterdam is a great. Paris is wonderful too if you go there, but Amsterdam is a great place. I told you need to read the books of Russell Shorto. You need to take the history of the world's most liberal city.
You tell me that.
Get it on your Kindle. Get it on your phone on the way over. Russell Shorto is a brilliant brilliant author. You ought to have him on the line on the show. And he wrote the book Amsterdam, A History of the World's Most Liberal City. It's a wonderful book. It really explains the culture and heritage history and how Amsterdam became what Amsterdam is still today. Then he's also written books about, he wrote The Island at the Center of the World and Taking Manhattan, which is about the relationship of Dutch history to New York history and explaining some of our heritage even here and now. But I'm serious. Get Amsterdam. Get his book, Russell Shorto.
Love it. I'm looking at it now. Amsterdam, A History of the World's Most Liberal City. Russell Shorto. And so we're headed there. I'm very excited just to be with my daughter doing anything, much less in Europe for the first time. Just the two of us gallivanting around the world's most liberal city. And I'm going to try to do some man on the street stuff while I'm there. I'm going to set my phone up on a clamp or tripod or something like that. And I'm going to have my mic and I'm going to do the old thing I used to do. And I'm pretty good at, although I'm a little wary to be American in Europe and to throw out questions to Europeans or Dutch citizens there. And so what should I ask? Will they be offended by even my voice, even my citizenship? I look like a J6er.
Don't wear a red hat.
Look at me. I really do.
Yeah, you do. That's right.
I either look like I climbed the walls of the Capitol or I'm a gay professor. So hopefully they'll think I'm the latter.
The first most obvious question is, do you hate us? Second, is it ever possible to trust America in any way again? Does this goose Europe into standing up on its own and being independent of America? And what's worse for you, McDonald's French fries or Bitterballen?
What's that?
Bitterballen, when I did things at newspapers and stuff there, when it comes time to have hoist a beer, they pull out the Bitterballen, which is basically fried stuff. Looking at the internet is now telling me that it is a deep-fried Dutch snack consisting of savory, thick meat ragu, usually beef or veal, that is rolled into balls, breaded and fried until crispy.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It is.
I'll eat almost anything that's fried.
It's going to be very bad for you.
Oh, sure. No, I'm on vacation.
I'm curious, too. I'm really curious about what they think of Europe today. Europe is our last hope, or the good parts of Europe are our last hope. Are they up to the task of saving democracy?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'm not going to say we're wrapped in any glory, but are you guys, what do you think about the future of your country and the EU and democracy within these countries? Because there's a similar movement in all of those countries, this anti-immigrant movement, of course, anti-Muslim movement. And so they're all scared of losing their culture and all of that. But I did see that, was it in Denmark, one of the Scandinavian countries, their white supremacists were like, fuck you, Donald Trump. Because, I think it was Denmark, because he wanted to take Greenland. So it's like Trump has lost the right-wing white supremacists in Europe, at least some of them. And I just thought that was interesting to see, because he is alienated Europe as well as much of the rest of the world through the invasion, tariffs and rhetoric, and the invasion of Iran, which is affecting everybody. But before we
I think I'm really curious to hear what the current thoughts are about Ukraine. And Germany is whispering about a draft. Germany. A lot of munitions manufacturing there. A lot of talk. I think it was Der Spiegel had a cover story recently, lead story, basically saying, are you ready for war? And it wasn't some hypothetical geopolitical thing. It was, do you have a war bag in your basement? They've been there. They're worried. Poland is a mess. It's not theoretical. Scandinavia too, to the north. Have you real.
Been following these Hungarian elections? Which are they? April? What? You following it at all?
Yeah, I bet. Just worry. I think that the deck is so stacked there. Is there any hope in Hungary?
Sunday, April 12th of those elections. So a youth-led push for change threatens Orban's 16-year rule in Hungary's elections. Orban will lose Hungary's elections in 2 weeks if it's clean, says the Bulwark. We'll see.
Would be a beautiful thing. The other interesting thing that's happening is that in Munich, staid conservative Munich, they just elected a very young gay man as mayor.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Europe is that in Germany especially, but generally across, the old mainline liberal party in Germany, it's the SPD, dying on the vine. And so what comes forward in youth, it'd be interesting to hear you talk to young Europeans and say, do they have the similar, I don't want to say disillusionment because they were never illusioned with our old politicians here? Is there a Mamdani movement going on in each of these countries? Is youth taking over?
You got me excited to do this now. Maybe I'll have Julia do it. I doubt she'll want to take the mic, but that would be fun. Yeah, we'll see. She might want to go off on her own too and leave
How
me.
do they watch, do your girls watch your podcast?
Sometimes. No, they don't watch it ever. My older daughter listens to the news segment I do a lot.
Okay.
And I think Julia doesn't really too much. No, it bores them, these long conversations. Mm-hmm. And some of the issues, I think, but some of them they do care about, but no, I don't think they know I do it. All right. Let me ask you about No Kings and get your reaction to that. My daughters did know that I hosted my local No Kings event yesterday, and then I went on Australian TV yesterday and got on my soapbox. I did my part. I was really happy to be engaged. What did you make of yesterday's events? Over 3,000 around the country, completely peaceful, by the way. I forgot to mention that today earlier in my news segment, but what is your reaction to yesterday's No Kings protests, which took place all over the country?
I wish we had them more often. I was glad to see them. I think that it confuses people that it doesn't have a real leadership. It does have a leadership, but it doesn't have an agenda in the way that people would be used to. It's a necessary relief valve for the frustration and anger and fear that we have, and it feels good. I'm still hobbling on a cane because I broke my back, and I hobbled to two of them. One in New Providence, which I went to last time, and I hobbled to one, and I did a picture of myself with a cane, screaming at the old man screams at the clouds.
Oh, I didn't see it. Yes.
And in Somerville, New Jersey, which is near where I live, it was the first time they'd had a No Kings, and it was a really good turnout. The interesting thing, Pete, was they had volunteers. As I walked from the parking lot over, as I hobbled from the parking lot over to the courthouse, they had volunteers in yellow vests saying there are counter protesters on the way. Please ignore them. We don't want to give them any attention. And they did a really good job of that. And I, at one point, took a picture of one of their signs, which was "Kill all liberals." And they said, "We don't want to give them attention." I said, "I'm a journalist. We don't want to give them attention." I said, "It's okay. It's all right." But they separated us, and I think it was wise. And they were obnoxious, and they were horrible, and they were wearing Proud Boys sweatshirts. At one point, as I was leaving, I saw there I am, old man shouts. Oh, this is the funny thing about this one is, so Pete's putting up for you on the audio, the picture from Facebook. Facebook now has the stupid AI. So under it, the two Facebook questions are, why did Jeff Jarvis write this post? And why is Jeff Jarvis critical of the nation? Do you have a few hours? One woman was coming back and yelling at the fascists, and the volunteers came in like a swarm of yellow-jacketed bees in between them to make sure that there was no confrontation and just saying, don't give them any attention, go away, leave them alone, that's what they want. Which I think was really smart.
Yeah, that's part of the training, and it's so important. We want so badly to yell at them and to argue with them and say, what the hell's wrong with you? And many of us are actually isolated.
It's not going to get you anywhere.
Not going to get you anywhere, and it's going to create potentially the scenario that they want. And you have one fight, and it goes viral, and then they were very violent. It could have been a fight from 1968 in grainy black and white, and they were like, look at those fights yesterday they had. So that was the primary part of the training in the organization, and it was successful.
Yeah. Then, of course, I have to whine and brandish my cane at media coverage, which I think was awful. Before we even had the event, in the morning of the event, the New York Times was, this is big trouble. I don't know if they can keep the movement going. Fuck you. Just fuck off. Our voice isn't even out there yet, and you're diminishing it already. Then the irredeemably broken post on the print paper, not that I see it.
Washington Post.
Somebody put a picture of it, Washington Post. Important to separate those two. The print edition did have a big picture up high of the event, but online, it was so far down on the screen as it also ran that I couldn't even take a picture of the whole thing to show how far down it was. Terrible coverage of it. And I understand. And then the Times did from here to there to there. They said, well, it had its dissenters, and they quoted some guys. If he's just some guy walking by, he's a known right-wing campus fascist kind of guy. And people, all they had to do was Google him, and people were saying, what are you doing? This doesn't represent anybody. Appreciate this much. A protest is hard to cover because anything you say is random. And you're just picking out one sign, one
Not
person, one whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're going to quibble about the numbers of how many, do you have about 3 million people at yours yesterday, Pete? On Saturday?
Yeah, over the countrywide, I think it was like maybe 8 million or something. Who knows what the number is.
Did you contribute 3 million of them?
I contributed like 500.
Did you count?
I brought them. I brought all my friends, all the people. I don't know how many were at ours in Nyack, New York yet, but I think it was about 500. I didn't end up counting. I was hosting. I was busy hosting and also taking care of the PA, Jeff. I was doing it all. I was really wearing all the hats yesterday, which I was happy to do, but it didn't give me time.
So what were all of your duties?
emceed. I opened it. I started it. I got everybody fired up and ranted and raved. And then I introduced all of the different speakers, being nimble with putting different people in different places and making sure everybody was happy. And in between going up and keeping people fired up, if the speaker wasn't as energetic, although all of ours were, how could you not be? And I made some jokes, but also, I ran the PA system. Hooked a mixer up and microphones. I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but it's great. That's why I'm like so mad that everybody's saying that protesters are getting paid. I'm like, I put in 15 hours in prep with meetings, and then I literally manned the PA system. I hosted it, and I got no money. I got no money at all. I don't even think I got new listeners or viewers or subscribers. I got nothing but pure purpose, satisfaction, and love. A lot of love. I felt a lot of love.
Were there any people who were droning on and dull and you had to find a way to hook them off the stage?
No, but I've been there. Oh. No, but I've been there.
Huh.
Yeah, that would have.
The person who does a really good job with the Jacob Silveroff, who I'm delighted is going to have his own show now.
Yeah.
Though I do hope he keeps reporting because he's a great reporter. He was in L.A. and he's really good at working an event like that. And it gives you a sense of it. And he brings people in. He brought one woman in and show your sign. She said, I work for the federal government. Like, not for long, lady. You can cover these things well, but all our dear media do is kind of say, where's the movement? Because you're not covering it. It's there everywhere. If you listen to people, if you hear them, we're angry. We're trying to protect democracy, and it's getting ignored. And it's hard in the dying throes of mass media. It's hard to have the appearance of critical mass.
I do think it's hard to cover, but I also think maybe I make an argument that it's a little easier to cover in terms of cameras and even drone shots and social media, meaning all I needed to see, I didn't need to necessarily hear what speakers were saying. In terms of coverage, what I needed and what I saw was lots of collages and video collages of several cities across our country and small towns filled with people like me. And that to me was convincing that there's a very powerful movement. All those pictures and images being shared on social media was the best way to cover a mass protest that took place all over the country. And it's a good point though, that it is hard to cover in terms of what the message is. But I think the message for us that were there is there's more of us than there are of them.
Amen. I'm curious. So I live in the suburbs of New Jersey. And so the crowds at the two I went to and the others that I've been to prior are older white people.
Yeah.
Pretty much exclusively. Yeah. I'm not seeing youth. I'm not seeing Black America. I'm not seeing Latino America. And what time for white people to stand up? Fine. That's not the least bit critical of any other community. But I wonder, A, whether I would get a very different picture had I been in Manhattan. I think I would have. B, what does it take to present a pluralistic movement in defense of democracy here, coming from different perspectives, coming from different communities and backgrounds and lived experiences and needs. But I think that's so important, is to say that we are in this together.
I think that it's all really good points. And did you see that video that went viral of the old white lady being surprised by the kind of guerrilla man on the street right-wing guy who was asking why there was no diversity there? You didn't see it? I could almost boot it up and play it, but she had the perfect answer to why there weren't as many black and brown people. She's like, because they're more likely to be in danger at one of these. They're more likely to be arrested. We're out here putting our bodies between them. And that's what a lot of white folks have been doing. And it was a great answer. A lot of people saw it. But I also think one thing that we tried to do as organizers of our No Kings movement is that we had, a lot of white people in my suburban area too, Nyack, New York, just outside of New York City. But the speakers and the messages were black and brown folks, young people who had been protesting and walking out of their schools in a student-led movement, and LGBT leaders as well as religious leaders. And so we had a really great diversity of speakers who were there to send a message to all the El Blancos that are willing to put themselves out there and join. Yeah. And that's our job overwhelmingly, is to listen, I think, and to act. And I think that's a lot of what we were doing. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah. And in elections of late, black Americans, especially black women, were the ones who came closest to saving us again and again. And then the promises that were made to them were broken.
And for the statistic,
at some point you just say, screw it.
Talking to Tim Wise the other day, and he mentioned that in terms of, this is often the case, but in terms of the job losses in Trump 2, black women as a demographic have lost the most. I think it's probably because disproportionately a lot of black women worked in the federal government and in other government positions. I'm not sure if that's the reason, but the point is, in terms of economic, we could talk about healthcare, we could talk about any part of socioeconomics in any measure, but in terms of job loss, that's the demographic who has already lost the most. So that's why we're supposed to be out there and advocating. Yeah. Moving on to a media question. I got to ask Jeff Jarvis this one, because you have the minority opinion in defense of the big tech companies after these two major recent rulings. You're going to tell me that's wrong, but these two major recent rulings that dealt with, you can explain them better than I can, but the fact that Meta and what's the other company? Meta has obviously YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, and then YouTube, which is Google, is addicting kids and affecting their mental health and so on. And two major lawsuits, drop in the bucket in terms of the fines, one would argue, but the precedent that it sets for future lawsuits and future damage, the way these are classified, it seems to be the headline, at least out of the latter suit. What do you want to tell us about this?
I'm extremely concerned about these cases. I get the emotional response. Yeah, get the big billionaires in their companies and they're screwing things up. I'm not defending Meta. I think it's an irresponsible company, and I think that it squandered a huge opportunity to bring community together, and I've always been disappointed by that, and I've said so. I do think YouTube is phenomenal, and it's clearly popular, and it's more popular than television or anything else we have, and I think that we have to listen to that. And it's at last the opportunity for people who don't have to go through the gauntlet of Hollywood and major media, mass media, to be able to speak to the world. And I love that. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the speech there. And these cases, I think, are tenuous in their justification. The most recent case was a young woman who obviously had a whole bunch of problems in life and then came to social media and accused it of addicting her. It's a correlation, causation, chicken, egg. It's far too simplistic, way too simplistic to say that there's one cause of problems in anyone's life or in society. There's a multiplicity of potential causes. And so I think it's legally tenuous. It's logically tenuous. There is tons and tons of research, and I quote it in my book, Web We Weave, and read more research every day that says that this stuff isn't harmful, that it can be in the edge cases, but most often it happens, it's when there's a coexisting condition, when someone has a problem and they turn to this. That's the negative side. There's also many cases where young people have problems and they turn to it for benefit, for succor and support and friendship that they can't find elsewhere. And in a place like Australia, where now it's cut off, we're cutting off those people, from those young people, from what they need in life. I fear an attack. It is absolutely an attack of moral panic. And it goes back to the fear of novels in the day and comic books and rock music lyrics and movies and radio, and I can point chapter and verse to the moral panics that are from the same exact script that happened with every one of those media. And it always comes from a lack of faith in our own children and our own young people and in the next generation taking over the world. It's somehow we think, we old farts, that we're better than them, smarter than them, and that they can't learn, which means that we didn't either. And so I find these decisions to be very disturbing. If you want to read about, there's a risk to Section 230 here, which I won't go into all the details, but if you read Mike Masnick at techdirt.com, I recommend him highly on the topic. And Kathy Gellis also writes there about this legally. I'm not sure these decisions will stand up on appeal. I think that there are First Amendment issues. I think that there are, again, legal logic issues with them. And it feels cathartic to say, yeah, we got Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, cool. Finally, I'll just say one more thing, Pete. The interesting thing to me is that, of course, with the biorhythms of the law, when it's made and when it's enforced, is always so far behind society. You go back 5 years and social media was the thing that was ruining society. It's the only thing we talked about, and that was that. Now I think social media is pretty much ignored, and now it's AI everybody's panicking about. So the people who were yelling, like Tristan Harris, who were yelling about social media and making films about that, are now in films. There's one out this week about AI being the thing that's ruining society. These are moral panics. Right. They say by their nature that we have no agency, that we have no self-respect, that we have no means to do these things on our own, that we can't figure this out, that we need nannies to figure it out for us and protect us from ourselves. The problem here isn't the technology. The problem here isn't even the billionaires, billions as they may be. The problem is always us. And we figure it out, and we get there, and we negotiate new norms, and we negotiate new standards in society. Never enough, but we get there. And to think that we need these kinds of cases means that there is collateral damage, and that collateral damage is our speech. Sorry for the sermon.
I like to hear your perspective on it because I don't think it's the most popular one. It's not the easiest one. No. It's a minor. When you say it, when you make it publicly, you get a lot of criticism for it. So I'm always happy to platform it. And you have the credibility and experience. You've written and researched it. And so people are happy to disagree with you. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about it. I think that you said a lot of things that make a lot of sense to me in terms of our own agency, our own personal responsibility, and the fact that I already had my own bag of rocks before I looked at fucking Instagram today. Did it make it worse? Maybe, but I already woke up feeling terrible about this or that or any number of things. Could it make it better? Maybe it could. I don't know. It certainly did help me fix this or that thing in my life or make this or that friend or take advantage of this or that opportunity. So it's a debate that's going to continue, and I'm always happy to have you weighing in on it. Another issue I want to have you weigh in on, just general journalism. It's changed rapidly, obviously, with technology and with authoritarianism, the rise of it, the threats that have come in. Every day he's threatening.
Yes.
Who is it just now? I just saw the Rolling Stones threatened with the visa loss over criticism of Melania. What?
Oh, God.
Legendary British rock band warned Trump could revoke their visa after Melania criticism. Not sure about this reporting here. But regardless, people being worried about what they're going to say and how that's going to affect them. Specifically, you've been ferocious critic of the New York Times. You call it the Broken Times, Washington Post, the Broken Post. What I wanted to say in the Times' defense is I wanted to give credit to their investigative reporting. They've done really great follow-ups on the American attacks on these fishing boats and apparently a healthcare facility, or what was it in Colombia that they helped attack? Was it Colombia? Potentially killing a lot of innocent people. So they're sending reporters to Latin America. They've also did an investigation, of course, into that bombing of the school in Iran, which made a lot of news.
And today, a U.S. missile hits Iranian sports hall and school once again, the New York Times.
Oh, I did not read about that yet.
New story.
The investigative reporting that they're doing, I think, is really good. Thoughts?
The reason that I criticize the New York Times is because we need it, is because I want it to be better.
Yeah.
I ignore my Gannett papers because they're not worth paying attention to. I'm at the point of ignoring the Washington Post because it has gone. I think it's become irredeemable. The Times does have excellent reporters. It does have. The Times is becoming a monopoly of news. The Times has a larger newsroom by far than anyone else. It has the resources that no one else has to cover things. It's pretty much all we have left when it comes to serious journalism and investigative reporting. That's why it has to be better. It has to be better than it is. And I praise it too. I'm sure they would say not nearly enough. They do have excellent reporters. We do need them. And the reason that I criticize them so heavily is because I am so disappointed in what they do with this most precious asset.
Fair enough. And I always appreciate that. Now let's talk about broadcast media. Who are you watching? What are you seeing? MS Now revamped. I don't know if you want to talk about that. They're still dying. CPAC happened. That looks like it's dying. And obviously there's continued to be the rise of YouTube podcasts and Substacks, I think, dominating a lot of people's algorithms and channels. And people are more dedicated to shows like mine or Ruth Ben-Ghiad or Glenn Kushner or Wajad Ali or David Rothkopf. Many people come on my show, your feed, whatever it is. People are gathering a whole bunch of different sources that they find credible. So a lot is changing, but what are your thoughts on anything, the quote old media, specifically cable news? Obviously also should probably talk about the future of it, what with the big purchase by Larry Ellison and his dumb son.
CNN's doomed, and I don't say that with any glee. I say that sadly because there are good journalists there too, and they're the place we've turned to when big news happens. I'm not going to trust it as much in the future. CBS is dead. It's dead as a doornail. There was a story today, Semaphore. CBS is hiring investigative reporters. What are they going to investigate? Area 51? Who cares? It's Barry Weiss. So they're going to ruin all of that. MS Now is what we have left. I think the changes they made were pretty good. Jacob Silveroff going to replacing Ali Velshi on the weekend. Ali getting a
11 o'clock
week show.
Love it. Every night.
11 o'clock, which means the folks on the West Coast will see him more.
He's the best, man. I got to say, I sent him a message the other day. When my mom had her accident, you and her checked on me every week, and just a great guy. His reputation amongst his, and he just does great work. He's so good at explaining stuff. Go ahead. Sorry.
Alicia Menendez getting her own 5-day-a-week show on her own, I think is good. I think that the evening weekend show is good, though Elise Jordan does drive me completely batty.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a big fan. I know her. I like her as a person, but I don't like her.
I'm sure she's very nice as a person, but the show would be different without her. Yeah. Anyway, Morning Joe cut back by an hour. Okay, that's a step in the right direction.
That would be such a better show with the exact same or different adding guests and two different anchors, including either of the other people like Willie Geist or Jonathan Lemire or Ali Vitale, anybody else. I just cannot stand the two of them. It is such a caricature of America. I just can't with either one of them. When she sits there and listens to him and just makes noises, I'm like, what is happening? Yes. And I just can't take it. But I love the format and I love the topics and the conversations, except when they talk about sports incessantly, which is so weird to do. Nobody likes it.
But I like him. What's his name? Pablo's.
Oh, that guy's great.
He is.
That guy's very good. Actually, when he talks about sports, I actually will listen. He's smart.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I don't care about sports. Yeah. Last night, what do you call it?
It's called
buzzer beater.
Wow.
UConn.
Physically moving your hand like you're doing a free throw was unbelievable to watch.
See,
was great.
You may not know it from this because I'm the same height as Pete here. Believe it or not, I'm 6'4". And when I would walk, and I was a new kid in high school all the time. I went to 4 high schools. And the coach would see me. And I would say, no, it's not what it seems to be. You don't want this. Trust me.
They had basketball when you were in high school?
Hey, screw you. So MS Now is all we have on TV, I think, it's left. And so it's on all day, and I gotta hope for it, and that's that. Otherwise, it's the next book I want to write. Mass media is dead. It's already dead. It doesn't know it. It's time to give up on most of it. I spent my 50 years of my life working in it, and I now have regrets.
Thoughts on I always love talking about the MAGA split, especially when it comes to media. Mark Levin and Megyn Kelly going after each other. Alex Jones on his way out, still going after Trump. Joe Rogan seeing and a lot of the other podcast bros peeling away. What do you make of the MAGA split?
I think we got to be careful here. All
right.
Because they can change back. They can change their stripes as easily as. I can't come up with a good line here.
Chameleons. They're chameleons.
Yes, they are. And they'll go back. They'll find something new, obnoxious, horrible, inhuman to support. So I don't find any hope in it.
What do you make of anything, coverage or strategy, anything you want to say about this war and what it means? And the fact this morning, the latest is that our dear leader put out a post saying United States of America is in serious discussions with a new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran. He is scared, and he is not in control of when this war starts, according to all the best experts I listen to. Who are you listening to? What are your thoughts?
We're screwed. My 401k. I'm already retired, folks. I'm emeritus, Latin for old. Mine is screwed up from a personal perspective. Far more important than any of that is people are losing their lives over there. More are going to lose their lives. The status of America in the world is shot for generations. This is the end of the American century. I think this is the fatal blow to America and MAGA and Trump.
Yeah.
And Europe has been very careful not to attack him for this, but also to say we don't want any of this on us.
Tell that to the Spanish Prime Minister. That's sexy.
God bless him.
Have you seen him? He has been really tough. He's been very tough on us. He's also very attractive. He's looks strong. Yes. He's very strong. You ever notice like Trump just turned like full on gay? You know what? That guy is he's right out of Central Crest. Very handsome. Look at him. I bet he smells very good. Wait a second. What just happened?
Yeah, the problem with the coverage of this war is people. Let me put it this way, Pete. I hear people say the war in Iran. That would presume that there are people shooting each other in Iran. Instead, it's this new age of not just missiles but also drones, and it's a war to Iran and a war to Israel. And even if you go back to the first George Bush war, we could see the mountain of the rooftops and we could see the explosions. And because there's no media or internet in Iran, we don't see what's really happening there. It's restricted in Israel. It's restricted to more and more of the Gulf states. People are being told they can't take pictures of things that's going on. Yeah. We don't really have much in the way of journalistic feet on the ground to cover it. So there's a really strange distance is that we're at war. We're killing people. We're bombing schools. But we don't see the results of that. It's the cleanest war I've ever seen.
There's not
antiseptic.
And there's not a cost to Americans until gas prices go up. Although they just raised the recruiting age, you're allowed to join the army now if you're 42. So that means not only can Barron and Tiffany join, but Eric can sign up too because he's right there on the cusp of 42.
Whoa. Good news.
Those were my favorite signs.
I feel safer already.
My favorite signs at the moment.
There's no concept. I'm old, so I grew up with the Vietnam War on TV at the dinner table, and that's what war looked like to me. And
everybody got that feed. There was only 3 feeds and 3 more on radio and 3 or 4, and so everybody got that message. You couldn't be that apathetic. You couldn't turn away from it. But I think that would be the case too if we start seeing multiple members of the United States military killed. If they put them on the ground for this hypothetical invasion. That would have such an effect, I think, that he could – I said this yesterday. You'll laugh at me too. I'm like, I think Republicans would impeach him if a bunch of Americans died in this war. They don't want it.
Some would, yeah. There was a line of CPAC. Do you want impeachment? And they started cheering, yeah. No, wrong answer. I
don't think they understood what he was saying.
No, they didn't.
Because
I think Iran, in a way, is making a huge mistake here in the world view of turning the internet off. Because if Iranians were taking pictures of what's really happening in Iran, I think it would change the view. We couldn't see Gaza. And even as people what was happening in Gaza shifted world opinion about Israel and about that war because it was just so apparent, the level of destruction. But still, it's the antiseptic war. It's the drone war.
All right. Finally, got to just ask you about looking forward in terms of, you know what, this TSA, this stupid fight over TSA. Just a general thought on how Democrats are managing that crisis at the airports and everything else out there right now, because people want Democrats to do something and they're winning everywhere in all these different special elections. It's crazy. They seem to have a tremendous amount of momentum. But what do you think about how Democrats are doing, and what are your current thoughts on what the midterm elections are going to look like?
I'm glad they finally held on to their spine on TSA. And they made clear it's the Republicans' fault. They made clear that they were not going to move on ICE And I'm proud of them. They finally did what they should have done again and again. So I'm glad about that. Midterms, I'm superstitious and I don't ever want to jinx us. I got one more question for you. So on the TV right now, as I have MSNBC on the background, I saw this morning Rand Paul say it's 50-50 he's going to run for president. Who does that spoil?
That's a great question. He's a libertarian leader.
Yourself,
he's a libertarian leader.
I wish I would do it myself.
Sorry, I muted myself because my daughter called me. He is the libertarian leader. He is not. I have to think about that. Who does it spoil? Because the other two names that are being mentioned a lot are Rubio and Vance, and Rubio seems to have a lot more respect than Vance amongst MAGA. I don't know why exactly. I can guess, but they're all hollow barrels. But Rand Paul's not hollow in terms of he is very consistent with his beliefs, many of which are crazy libertarian beliefs that he got from his dad. Who does it spoil? Who do you think? I think Mike Pompeo is going to come out and probably be the nominee, as I predicted last time, accurately.
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know.
And Mike Pompeo.
Insanity.
I'm predicting Pompeo again.
Yeah, what the hell? Anything can happen, Pete.
It's going to be Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, it could be Eric Trump.
No. No constituency for him. I don't think he's effective. I don't think those guys aren't effective communicators in any way.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
That matters. All right. This was great. As always, I love talking to you, Jeff Jarvis. I appreciate you coming through as you always do. I hope everybody's following you and supporting you and getting all your books. Anything else you want to plug before we go?
Oh, I will actually. So I have a new book coming out called Hot Type, which is coming out this summer, which you can pre-order right now. But I also announced that I am editing a new book series for Bloomsbury called Intelligence, AI, and Humanity.
Ooh.
So we announced our first 3 books. The aim is to have people writing from many disciplines to reflect on how AI reflects on society. Ooh. It's not about the AI, it's about us. And that's going to be a lot of fun to do. I can't believe I'm editing a book series for an academic press. But these will be trade books that come out for everybody to read. Please keep your eye out for that.
Thank you for joining me. Go keep your eye out for all that and everything that Jarvis is doing. I really appreciate you, your friendship, your advice, your expertise, your counsel, and your beauty, your musk. I bet you smell leather and nails and oak. And
what do you smell, Pete?
Your nurse. I smell like water, sulfur, polluted water. I smell like Steve Bannon. Ironically. Same thing. All right, goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'll be back at 3 with Alison Jaslow, retired captain of the Army, and it'll be good. I promise you that. Bye-bye. And there you have it. Jeff Jarvis. Always great. Go follow him. Go support him. Go let him know that you heard him here on the show. Go promote the show. Go give it 5 stars. Go sign up for a paid subscription if you haven't. Get your tickets for Pod Jam. And I will be live with Christian Finnegan and Celeste Headley today at 10 and 11. That's the plan, at least. It can always change, but check out Substack and YouTube at Stand Up with Pete. It'll give you an alert if you check the bell, I think, and let you know that I'm going live, and I hope to see you there. And then it's to the airport and over the Atlantic Ocean, hopefully landing safely in Amsterdam, morning their time, 7 a.m. their time. So I don't know what that makes us our time, but sometime in the middle of the night. Okay, no, like midnight, I think it'll be here. So I'm sure I'll overcome the jet lag and bounce right back, and everything will be just fine, right? I'm always positive, always optimistic, and very much looking forward to my trip. Thank you very much for your support. I couldn't do it without your help and some miles that I've been collecting for 2 years to get these tickets for Julia and I really appreciate all of your support. And we'll talk to you tomorrow, because I will be back with Eric Siegel tomorrow on the podcast, and then you will hear from on the podcast. I'll play the Christian Finnegan, Celeste Headley, and my conversation with retired Army Captain Alison Jaslow as well. That's it. That's all I've got. Thanks for being here, for supporting me. Support John Carroll, who writes and performs all the music. JohnCarroll.org, and be the change you want to see.
Get up off of your butt, down off of your fence, even if it ain't a very friendly audience. Well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense, and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. had to stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't in sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up, stand up, got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up, people got the power. Stand up, come on.